Welcome to the podcast about interesting, everyday people. I'm Daniel Lance.
I'm Paul Gilman, and this is Podso 1.
Darren McBurnett, a.k.a. McB, is a former Navy SEAL and author of Uncommon Grit, a photography book documenting the famous and notoriously difficult basic underwater demolition / SEAL training. We had a great conversation covering McB's upbringing, his thoughts on buds, some of his experiences in the SEAL teams, and how his Instagram has become a uniting refuge from the divisive norm. To find out more about him and to buy his book, check out dmcburnett.com. And with that, here is Darren McBurnett. Yeah, so can I call you McB?
Yes.
All right, cool. I wasn't sure. McB, or Darren McBurnett, welcome to Podso 1.
All right, thank you. Glad to be here, even though we've been talking for the last 40 minutes. I mean, we finally turned on the damn machines.
Yeah, I just forgot to hit the button.
There you go. Shit. Oh, yeah. Record. Enter.
I'm guessing you're from the Midwest.
Yeah, absolutely.
What part of the Midwest?
For the most part, I can easily say Indiana. You know, my dad was in the military, so we're, traveled all over the country and the world. You know, I was born in California, and then literally when I turned 10 years old, born in California, left 2 weeks, and then didn't come back to the States till I was 10. So kind of like yours.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So it was like Japan, Guam, Spain, back to Japan,
Mm-hmm.
So, and then finally back to California, and then went from there. But my home base of family was in Indiana. So my mom lived in Indiana. All my relatives in Indiana. My grandmother, grandfather on both sides, all Indiana. So my dad's brother and sister, all Indiana. So every summer when I was actually in California, went to Indiana, and then I lived there for my sophomore year with my mom. Then went to Purdue. So, not that means anything. It's a liberal arts degree. So, it's like, just, a little about everything, but not enough about anything to do anything, so.
So it sounded like you were moving around a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
Were your parents military?
Yeah, my dad was.
Okay. Yeah. And so, did you have the idea of being...
He goes in and out sometimes. Yeah, he said.
You already mentioned that?
He said, yeah, that was the preface to him moving around a lot.
All right, well,
it's okay.
I'm guessing he's a Navy man based on all the places.
Yeah. We'll edit that out.
Yeah,
we can.
I'm in control of that.
Yeah.
No, I was just wondering, how early on in your life you kind of were thinking about military as a potential career for yourself. Oh man.
I always liked the military. I liked being on base. So I knew in the back of my head early on that I was probably going to be in the military. I kind of knew I was going to go that path, real early in my life, but didn't start coming to fruition probably when I was like my sophomore year in high school. Well, I thought I was going to go in, but then I started getting really good at triathlons and marathons and things like that, and so that kind of changed a little bit because I wanted to become a professional triathlete, because earlier that month of 89, I qualified to be a pro at one of our local triathlons. And that time you had like Dave Scott, Scott Molina. I don't know if you know those guys. It was all the Scotts that were winning all the triathlons, and Scott Tinsley. And then I placed like top 10 in one big race, and they were all in. And so that qualified me to be a pro. And so then
you were in high school.
Yeah, I was in high school.
Wow. Dang.
Yeah, so I started thinking about that route, and so I went to a local college at that time, and study athletics so I can actually be part of cross country team, swim team, and keep at it. So we kind of put military on the back burner for a while.
Nice.
That's hardcore. You must have a physiology that can just run all day, bike all day, and swim all day.
Yeah, I used to. now I walk 18 holes, 7.5 miles, and I'm sore when I get done. Jesus,
it happens.
Sucks.
So why is it that like 8 out of every 10 special operators I run into are from the Midwest?
I have no idea. Probably because there's nothing to do out there but cow tip. I don't know. Go to the Tasty Freeze. I don't know. I don't know. I just Like in my mind, Midwest is like, I don't know, just corn fed, American spirit. People that just love being American. And so that's my take. Every house there has American flag out. The college of their choice out. And they love America. It's farmers. It's blue collar workers for the most part. And
they got to work for a living, and they have a mindset that life's tough, and you got to be tough to meet it. Yeah, and they love the country.
Mm-hmm. Well, that changes, of course, when you get to California, but
yeah, well, if you go to either coast,
either coast, it gets weird.
It gets super weird. So you were a bit older when you went to Buzz.
I was. I graduated from Purdue, and in end of '93. Actually, mid '93, I graduated from Purdue with a liberal arts degree, which is awesome, so a little bit about everything, but not enough about anything to do anything important. So there's your liberal arts degree for you. And it's funny because people thank me for my service all the time, and I tell them that I did. I say thank you back, and I just tell them that's my liberal arts degree, hard at work. That's what I got for my liberal arts degree.
So you didn't get did you look for a job and then decide to go military? Or?
No, as soon as actually, while I was still in college my last year, my last year, I already went to the Navy recruiter. I was already signing papers to join the Navy. I didn't know much about anything special operations by any means. No idea. Didn't know we had Navy SEALs. Didn't know we had. The only thing I knew that we had Navy divers. I knew we had those, but to me it was just get into the service and then do 4 years. I didn't really have a lot of student loans at all. I had maybe a couple grand. That was it.
Nice.
But to me, it was pay back student loans, serve, and then kind of follow in the footsteps of my family members, and then see where the road took me.
And so SEALs were not as famous back then as they are now.
No, I mean I went in the Navy. I think the internet was invented a year prior when I went in the Navy.
It wasn't widespread.
Yeah, it was you had to have a computer, and only the people that had the portable computers were rare. I'm I don't remember anybody having one. And then the computers at at your workspace when you first got in the Navy was very few people had them.
Right.
3 or 4 people, and that's it. So it wasn't it's not it's archaic, but it wasn't how it is nowadays where you can't do anything without a computer.
Right.
So I didn't know anything about the internet or anything else, and so you just to me it was in the Navy.
What did your dad do in the Navy?
He was a pilot. He flew.
Okay. What did he fly?
A6s.
Okay. Yeah.
Are those fixed wing?
Oh, they're the one that the wings bend up. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Are you? Oh, okay. I thought you were.
No, I'm
making
dead serious. Yeah. Well, yeah.
I thought you were like Darth Vader's ship.
Yeah, like the Darth Vader shuttlecraft. It's exactly what it's like. As a matter of fact, exactly what it's like.
I can't tell if you guys are messing with
Maybe
me.
that's where George Lucas got it from.
That
Probably.
could be.
Yeah.
Or the Lego set, one or the other.
So that doesn't count as fixed wing.
No.
Okay.
So fixed wings are they're just like a jet.
Right. And then so you have helicopters, fixed wing, and then are those? And then what's the category of
You
this
have
bendy
propeller, fixed wing, rotary wing, and then A6s.
There you go.
A6s are just in their own category.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, everybody, let's Google aircraft. What are?
So did you want to be a pilot, or you knew you wanted to be a special operator?
No, I didn't know. I just joined. It's because my degree was it was liberal arts, but it gravitated toward physical fitness. And so you can honestly say, if you had to narrow it down, what exactly is your degree in? And it was kinesiology, sports and physical therapy, So, I in the Navy, your medic is called a corpsman, and so I got sent straight to HMA school, which is basically an A school for enlisted. So when you join the Navy, they put you in an A school because the Navy kind of is pretty smart about it. It's hey, we want to find a job that fits you. And so you can benefit from being in the Navy, and the Navy can benefit from you. It's a great relationship. You don't want to join the service and They just throw you in something, you're going to be miserable. So
like the Army does.
Like the Army. Yeah, the Army's like exactly the Army. It's like, oh, well, guess what? Here you go.
You're awesome at this, but you hate it. We don't care.
Yeah, we don't care. Go.
Yeah.
And so that's what Navy does, which is actually really good. Make sure that you do what you want to do, but in that way the Navy benefits. So.
Yeah.
And so I was a corpsman or medic, and that's kind of like my path. That's how I got started.
How long did you do that?
I did that for, let me do the math. Like a year and a half, actually.
And did you catch the SEAL bug along the way?
No. My swim times, when you're doing the PRT, which is a physical readiness test, back then, it was like 500-meter swim, a mile and a half run in like, your long pants and boots, and then pull-ups, sit-ups, and push-ups. I think the pull-ups were like 6. Push-ups were like 42 and 52 sit-ups in 2 minutes. So it's not incredibly difficult by any means.
But you probably crushed the swim.
Yeah. That's what set me on the path, because the funny thing about it is, when I was in high school, I did all the athletics. I did cross country, track, indoor track, swimming, road races, marathons, triathlons, biathlons. And so, but it's not like today where the idea of strength training and CrossFit and everything else was like, no one even thought of that. So it's like, I was back in the day, it's like, oh, you want to bike faster? Then you bike more miles. You want to run fast? Well, then you got to run more miles. Mm-hmm. That was the mindset back then, Like football practice, you're going to do 2 a days. It's like, oh, wow, what are they going to learn? They get beat up for 2 days. It's like that mindset is like, you just got to keep doing it over and over and over again.
More is better, man.
Yeah, exactly. And so, nowadays they don't have that. Now I wish, anyway, I wish we did, but we didn't. So when it came to upper body strength, core strength, I had 0, like none. And so when I took the PRT of the Navy, my swim time, you had to pass the swim in like 12 and a half minutes. I did it in 5:15. Yeah.
Well, what was the point?
Yeah, exactly. And then it came to the run. I did the run in like 7.5 minutes, But when it came to the everything else, it was like it did exactly 6 pull-ups, barely 52.
So, and you weren't huge, right?
No, I was like, holy shit. And I was like, God, barely made it through that.
So it was a 500-meter swim, and you did it in 5 minutes and 5.5 minutes?
Yeah, breaststroke, by the way. Because you couldn't.
He's a swimmer, so you couldn't do overhand.
I swam in high school, and like my 100 freestyle time was, I think I like barely broke a minute, barely. Yeah. So to do that 5 times would to be
and it was breaststroke, is underwater recovery stroke, like to call it.
Right.
So you can do side stroke or breaststroke. And so what I did is when you do, if you swim, you do breaststroke, you get that big push off the bottom, and you do the big,
yep,
and then you come up. And so when I'd come up, I'd be almost halfway through the pool. So I'd take a breath, and come back down, and then just do another breaststroke, come up to the side, take a breath, and down. And by the time I was at the other end, I was ready to do a flip turn and came back.
Wow.
And so the one instructor that was watching me do it, when I got done in 5:15, yelled at me because said I was cheating. I'm like, because there's no way anybody did it that fast. So they made me do it again. So I did the next one in 5:35 because it's like a repeat. It's like, I don't care. I do 6-minute repeats all the time. I don't give a shit. So I just did it again.
Just don't make me do pull-ups again.
Yeah, If I had to do pull-ups again, I would have failed. I'm like, no, I can't lift my body over this bar anymore. We're done. And so that was like a real shock to me, how I couldn't really do anything core upper body, but I could do all the athletics, which is great. So I go to in the military, you have what's called career counselors. Okay, it's kind of like, I know it sounds funny, like in college and high school. Oh, you got to go see your guidance counselor. Mm-hmm. But the military has them. They actually a job. It's actually NEC, a naval enlisted code, which is basically your MOS if you're in the Army. It's a job title, and that's their job, is to place you where the Navy can best use you.
Sounds like another smart feature of the Navy.
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
The Army only had them 10% of the force got access to them. Yeah.
Army had, go. Hey there, filthy leg, beat it. Infantry, go.
It's only funny because it's true.
Yeah. All right. So I've worked with so many Army guys, man. So they're just good people. So during when I went to talk to my career counselor, he was like, "Man, your swim times are really fast." He's like, "Hey, we have a program that might fit you," and I was like, "Oh, okay, what's that?" And he goes, "Well, they're called Navy SEALs," and then I giggled because it sounded funny. It's like because the first time you hear it, if you don't know anything about
what year is this? What year is this?
This is 94.
Yeah, okay, so you giggled when you heard.
So I giggled because it sounded funny. It's like that sounds cool. I just giggled because it sounded. To be honest, it sounded stupid.
They're cute.
So it's like
cute animals.
Cute. Yeah, like what in the hell is that?
What I want to be a SEAL?
What? Because there's not a lot of literature back then, and then when someone says that to you, if you don't know anything about it, you're going to go, you're going to giggle.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that sounds funny, And so I was like, what do they do? And so here's where I was bamboozled. It's like, well, they swim all day and scuba dive.
That's not accurate.
That's not even accurate. I don't think he knew what the hell it was. So I was like, well, who doesn't want to do that? Because in my mind, all I'm thinking is doing laps in the pool, which I did anyway, for years. And then now I get to scuba dive to something in Nassau, thinking Jamaica, beautiful, like this is a job. We get, yeah, I'll do that. It said my scores were good, so sign the paper. But what I learned later on, it was unbeknownst to me at the time, but it was beknownst to me later, is the very first lesson that you learn, which is work smarter, not harder. So back then, your career counselor, they had a ball-busting job because think about it, back then there's like typewriters and Rolodex cards and all these like scanning like ditto sheets coming off from like a ditto maker from back in the days. His job, every corpsman that went into that hospital, he had to find a job for him. Like every corpsman that came in, he had to find a job for him. Every corpsman leaving after their 2-year stint, he had to find a job for him. And that's constantly on the phone, finding commands where they can go, send them overseas, cutting them orders, making sure they go to PSD personnel to get their orders and their money, and they're moving. It's like it was thankless. That's a guy like probably sitting there with a bottle of bourbon, smoking on it. It's like endless. This guy was always working. It's like, so if I'm doing that. And I can just take a piece of paper, put a stamp on it, and send a guy 3 miles across the bridge someplace to a place where it's 90% failure rate. He just passes problems to other people.
Right.
It's like, yeah. you guys can find some place for him in the fleet, So that was brilliant work on his part. I was like, yeah, go over there, have fun. Oh yeah, here you can go.
But it worked out.
Yeah, it worked out. But literally, he didn't know when I got there. It's like I was quickly introduced, to basic underwater demolition SEAL training by the instructor staff that started yelling at me and welcomed me to the hardest military school like on earth. So I was definitely bamboozled, and I was desperately looking for the pool and the dive rigs, and they were anywhere to be found. But there was the surf zone, and there I went. Here I am at basic underwater demolition SEAL training.
Well, it seems to me that people that want to go through BUDS go in there knowing about it and also knowing that they don't want to quit, as opposed to going in there thinking that there's going to be a swimming pool and they'll get to swim laps.
That's got to be a mind screw, right? That had to mess with you bad the first few days, first couple of weeks.
I was just like, when are we going to actually? We had a pool, so I remember the second before BUDS started. It's called Basic Orientation. We were there. It was called PTRR. But it's kind of like an in-doc, and so you're kind of getting introduced to what you're doing. And it's like you start doing small boats, IBSs. You start, learning the O course. I saw the O course for the first time. My mom went, Sweet Mary and Joseph and the Shepherds. You gotta be fucking kidding me. What the? Jesus. It's like if you don't see this O course and you see it for the first time, you're like, no. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, no, nope. But in what fucking universe can anybody do that one? It's like that was why I'm like looking around all these obstacles, going, well, I can do that one. That's just I jump over 3 logs, But then you see all the other gaudy monstrosities of obstacles in there, and you're just like, I was like, oh my God. But it was weird because because I was McBurnett, so I was like right in the middle, and you saw guys that started going, and it was something clicked. It was like me looking at the O course for the first time. I'm telling you, it's like I was in shock. I was like, there's no way. There's no fucking way. But as soon as it was my turn, the instructor said, "Get up here, McBurnett, you piece of shit, drop me." I'm doing 20 push-ups. Every time I say drop, you 20 push-ups.
They're smoking you while you're doing
and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, go, fucker. And I'm like, ah. So then it's like boom, boom, boom. And it's like I did the O course like I've been doing it for years. You just following the guy in front of you. Like, okay, boom, 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 boom.
Dang. So you didn't have any issue. Well, I'm sure it was difficult.
Yeah, it was
difficult.
You made it through. Yeah, I just went through, and it was almost like you just, I don't went on instinct. You just like some outer body experience. The outer body went out and came back in, and then just took over your body, and you went. And it was like a weird experience. But then you had the O course. Then you had the boats you're dealing with. Boats are actually fun. Then you're doing conditioning runs and swims, which I had no problem with. It's like that was finally something easy, or I wouldn't get yelled at. But the early morning 0400 grinder PTs was a nightmare. When
they saw that you were good at swimming, I mean, did the instructors notice and then give you worse treatment?
No, I just, they're probably like, thank God he's good at something, because he sucks at everything else.
Well, how did you get through the O course if your upper body strength wasn't so?
I'm telling you, it was instinct.
Wow.
I mean, it hurt. I definitely didn't have the fastest times at all. Like, you've seen the lads that had the fast times, and they just whizzed through the fucking thing. I'm like, God damn, these guys are good, And then it's like when I first started, like a good average time for a SEAL student is about 7 minutes. Mm-hmm. That's a respectable time. You have 13 and a half minutes to pass it. If you don't, then you fail, and then you're done. So I never even got to that threshold, but believe it or not, a lot of people did. But my average time on the O course is about 7.5 to 8 minutes.
Wow!
But the fast guys did it in 4.
Oh. So okay, you're led to the O course. It's first time seeing it. If you don't make it through in 13 and a half minutes,
you have to do a retest.
Okay.
But they don't, like, when you first go to the O course, well, there's days on the O course where you're working on the O course this morning. So you'll do 0400 PT every morning, which is calisthenics. So you wake up at 3:15 or 3 o'clock, get down there, be in formation, ready to go at 4. The first thing you do, instructor, is you hit the surf. You get wet, you cold, you're freezing, you do surf conditioning, you come back, then you start doing like push-ups, burpees, freaking 8-count bodybuilders, leg levers, freaking pull-ups, push-ups, dips, surf hits down to the surf zone, get wet and sandy, come back. You'll do that for like an hour, and then you got to run to eat, and dining facility. For us it was the galley, depending on what service you're in. It's a mile and a half away, so you get your class together, you run a mile and a half, 10 minutes to eat, mile and a half back, and then so you're running 12 miles a day just to feed your little face, and then then you start doing another evolution or two, then you go to lunch, you come back, afternoon evolutions, and finally get to the pool. It's like, oh, thank God, a pool, and then they tie your hands and feet together, and you start doing drown proofing. You're like, oh, well,
what does that mean, drown proofing?
Well, it's what it is. So it should be called, like I said in the book, I call it panic proofing, because the first thing you want to do, because you're going to be, what they do is introduce you to stress right off the bat, and that's what you do, because you're doing a high risk job. You're doing a job where people are going to try to kill you. So how do you start? Those are high risk, high stress situations. So how do you start training people to be in a stressful situation? Now, you can yell at people all day, but that's not stressful, okay? When you take someone's air away and have them perform tasks, that's stressful. And so that's what drown proofing is. You're going to tie your feet together and your hands behind your back. We're going to throw you in 9 foot of water, and then you're going to survive. You're going to swim 100 yards. You're going to do backflips, front flips. You're going to bob. You're going to float. You're going to be comfortable. You're going to problem solve. And so that's kind of the first things you do, and that's how you're introduced, how to deal with stress,
So for people that don't know how to get their head above the water or how to breathe, do you just pass out and then get pulled out?
Yeah, pretty much.
God. And you have to be resuscitated, right?
Some will just come right back, No big deal. I mean, it happens. I'm never going to let you die. You know, they're just going to...
Right.
Okay, he's actually going to the bottom and he's staying there. Okay, let's bring him up.
And I remember you, this is kind of related, but one part of the book, you talk about one of the drills being rescuing someone who's drowning, and how you compare it to a UFC fight going on underwater.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's called life-saving. That's a fun one. So if you ever... See, I was a lifeguard. If you're ever a lifeguard, if you ever actually had to save a drowning person, it's exactly what that is. I mean, it's like, you know, when someone is desperate for air, and they see their life is thinning out, and they think they're going to die, they get re-strength. I mean, they actually, I don't know if you heard about it or not, but they will panic and they will do anything to stay alive, and they will pull you under with strength that you never even thought humans should have. And I've done that because I was a lifeguard for a while. And when you're saving people that are drowning, it's a gut check. And so, and I think in SEAL training, especially basic, I think it was just for fun. I think it was just because I think the instructor just wanted to wrestle us and try to kill us. So, so that's what it is. The whole evolution is like, you have to go save the drowning instructor. You're like, oh, here we go. And, you know, in my mind, it was like you're not you don't face the evolution, but you can hear like all the thrashing going on. But basically, it's supposed to simulate you saving a drowning teammate. You know, it's like, wow, that whole argument collapses on itself because we're here trying to be frogmen. You know, so we're gonna. You're like, you want me to save my drowning buddy? Yeah. I thought it was funny at the time. So
no, you're not facing the evolution, meaning like you have your back to it, so you can't see what's going on, and then you just get thrown in blind.
Yeah, you go. You're in line for your instructor, and the instructor calls your name, and you turn around and jump in and save me. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. So you dive in, you do the techniques that they teach you to do, and then they just fucking wrestle you to death. So
they fight you the whole time.
Yeah, it's just a fight. That's all it is.
Dang.
So, but that's okay though. I mean, that's all part of it, you know. But hey,
what's the absolute shittiest part of BUD/S?
It's not necessary. Everything can be shitty at BUD/S, believe it or not, if you don't adapt to the philosophy of you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, period. There is not one time in that school that you are comfortable and happy, ever. You're always going to be cold. You're always going to be under stress. You're always going to be late. You're always going to be push-ups. You're always going to be fatigued. And you will, like I said, you'll always be shivering. You're always going to be cold. And even at night, when you finally get to bed about 11 o'clock, you know, it got to the point where I did not want to get underneath the blankets of my bed because it would be comfortable. And if I did that, I knew that I wouldn't want to leave the bed in the morning. And that you see most people quit. I'm like, they just won't get up.
Yeah.
They're like, they're done. They're like, and I knew that I didn't want to do that. So I slept on top of my bed. And so what I'd always do is the laundry would be done because everyone throws their laundry in when they're done. And that's why you got to start a new set of greens on. And I would dress for the next day. I'd put on my greens, my boots. I didn't tie my boots totally. I just left them loose. And I would sleep on the top of my bed with an old army blanket and like an old like hoodie, like your watch cap
that
you would get.
Yeah.
And that's how I'd sleep. And when I'd wake up in the morning, I would be dressed. And plus, I was already damp because, you know, you're sweating all night because you're freezing all day long, you know. And then, you of course, when you go to bed, you just, you know, you sweat. So I was already damp. I already had dull shiver. So what I do is I fold my army blanket up, straighten out the sheets, you know, brush my teeth, don my boots, and I was ready to go. It's done. Like, here we go.
And it worked. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Were other people doing that?
A few were, but most people, it's like, I don't know how they did it. It's like I knew if I got underneath those sheets and covers and got all nice and comfy, because when the weekends came, at least in first phase, like Saturday would come around and that bed was so comfortable. I'm like, oh, you know, sleep into like 11 or 12, you know, hobble over, hobble across the cafeteria, grab a bunch of shit to eat, and then come back and sleep for the rest of the day. It's like Saturday and Sundays for me were sleep. That's all I did. I spent all day in bed. Just, Because then Monday morning came around and that 3 o'clock alarm came off real early.
3 o'clock, jeez.
So they give you time to yourself Saturday and Sunday, which is actually worse psychologically, I would imagine.
Yeah, a lot of people quit Monday morning.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's a. Oh. You think you have a case of the Mondays? Oh shit.
Yeah, because the first thing you do is grind your PT. You run right straight out to the surf. And when I was out there in like February, it's fucking cold. It's already cold outside. It's like 38 to 40 outside. The ocean's like 48 degrees. And you're sitting there in ice cold water, and it hits you right away. Wave smacks you, roll around. You're automatically shivering, and now you're doing rope climbs, and and a lot of people couldn't handle that. So anyway,
you said it was like a 90% failure rate, and I'm assuming most of that failure was like people giving up more than there being an injury or failing assessments. Is that
it's actually a fair balance, to be honest with you.
Oh, really?
It really is. Yeah, I mean, I think the people that quit are greater, but it's not like everybody quits. It's like if you take an average class of about 180, about 30, anywhere between 25 and 30 will graduate Hell Week, probably less. But you take the other, 140 guys that were there. Most of them DOR'd, but there's also a large amount of injuries. That's probably second, and third is performance drops, where you still have to perform. It's not a school of I just don't have to quit. It's like no, you have to perform. You have to pass the test gates. You have to pass all the 4-mile time runs, and you have to do it in 32 minutes in the soft sand with boots. You have to pass the O course in 13 minutes. You have to pass the 2-mile ocean swims in 75 minutes. You have to pass the drown proofing, the 50-meter underwater swim, life saving, not tying. There's like all those test gates you have to pass.
Yeah.
And so if you don't, well, then you get rolled to the next class. Then you got performance roles, performance or failing. Like you're failing evolutions, you're falling behind on log PT, you're falling behind on sand runs, conditioning runs, and so you just can't sandbag it. You can't just like all I have to do is like pace myself and not quit. It's like no, you have to put out and perform and show that you want to be here, and you have to be in it the entire time. If you're not, then we'll get rid of you. So
the name of your book is Uncommon Grit, just to bring that up, and I'm sure that's referring to like the grit that you need for something like buds. I'm wondering, was there did you ever kind of glean like a sort of formula for how people came to have this uncommon grit, or why, or where, like why and how it shows up?
No idea. I'll be honest with you. It took a while to come up with Uncommon Grit because it wasn't an entire book on SEAL training. It's just like the first 4 weeks, which is the hardest, which is people have to test themselves, and that's where literally most people will quit, and it's the hardest phase, of SEAL training, and that's where people, like I said, test themselves, test their character, test their potential, see how far they can go. Mm-hmm. You're going to be tested. We're going to push to your limits and see how far, because the war's between your ears, man. It's a mental war, and that's what it is. And so the biggest thing that I talk about is making the impossible possible. And it's like what makes a common man do the uncommon. And that's where I got the uncommon, and just I wanted to, like, what is that characteristic? And so, grit always kept coming up, and as in the back of my head, and so that's what uncommon grit is. Uncommon is like not out in the ordinary. Grit is like your characteristics, and so and that's what the book is, man. And then that actually personifies first phase of buds. But the thing about it is, from when you get there to after Hell Week, that's only 4 weeks. So you still have 22 more weeks to go, plus another year of SEAL qualification training, plus another year of working up at your SEAL team with your SEAL platoon. So you're looking at almost 2.5 years even before you deploy with the SEAL team as a SEAL. if you make it that far. And just because you graduate buds does not mean you're going to become a SEAL. You'll probably easily, whenever we graduate, you'll probably lose another 15% of those guys doing the next year of training. So that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I can't imagine getting through all of buds and then having to drop off later.
Yeah, well, a lot of that's just, a lot of it's like, it's either you get it or you don't get it. It's like your land warfare or CQC or it's tactics or diving. You just, you'll lose guys. Safety violations, sometimes it just don't pick it up, and it's not their fault. Not that they're bad dudes or anything else. It's something they just can't comprehend a couple things.
Right.
And so, that happens. So I've had guys quit at jump school because they're afraid of heights. All of a sudden, I got to see air and land. All of a sudden, they get to free fall school and they're like,
and they don't know. They don't know beforehand.
Yeah, they did. It's like it's kind of like me doing the O course. It's like, oh, you have to jump 16,000 feet out of an airplane and actively participate in saving your own life. Yeah, pull the ripcord. You're like, ooh. And that actually freaks a small percentage out. Not every class, but there'll be one or two that just quit because of that.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So grit is a reference because I think about sand. And sand is everywhere in those first few weeks. Talk to us about the effects of sand on a...
That's awful. God, I hate sand. I mean, it's just... The sand there is one of the things that makes it really hard because, when people train to go to buds, they're running on roads. They're running in tracks. They're doing treadmills. It's comfortable training. Look at me. I'm training for buds. I'm going to be a SEAL. And it's like, but you're in a gym. Or you're running on the roads. It's like, no, but once you get out there, it's a shocker when people get out there. They're like, now they're running in boots, and you're running in soft sand. And you'll be lucky if you get a soft sand run that the tide is out, and instructors are going to take you down to the hard-packed sand because the tide's out. Mostly not. It's like, it's pretty sad when the most happiest mornings you're out there doing a 4-mile timed run, and the tide's out. You're like, yes. Because instructors can't mess with you. And you get to run when the tide's out. So, now you get all the hard packed sand. You're like, yes. But it's little victories anyway. But that's people have never run in boots before. I mean, that's a 5-pound difference in your feet. And then you get them wet and cover sand.
And they're not meant for running, really.
No, they're not. Yeah. And, sand, especially in Hell Week, sand's everywhere. It's just everywhere. It's just an irritant. And that's like I said, it's a mental. It's like how much irritating things you're going to deal with. And a lot of it is... especially when it gets to Hell Week, is the chafing. The chafing's awful. It's like you're constantly moving in friction for 5.5 days with no sleep. And so your uniform's constantly wet. You're constantly moving. You're covered with sand. You're covered with salt. And you're just chafing on your arms, around your neck, your groin area, the tip of your penis, your back, your butt, to the point where it's just raw meat. And then you got chunks of your skin falling off. And it's like awful.
You're chafing in places you never imagined you would chafe.
It's like, is that even a place? How do I chafe in the back of my kneecap? Freaking sucks.
So did they really not let you sleep during Hell Week?
Nope. You get an average of 3.5 hours, and that's it.
Wow.
For 5.5 days of constant moving.
So did you, what, like those last couple of days, like Thursday, Friday, did you start hallucinating? Like, how did you make it through?
Thursday's a good hallucination day. But the interesting about Hell Week is it starts Sunday evening and goes all the way to Friday afternoon. And Wednesday is usually your day in the tent. And the tent is like, you get like 3 hours of sleep or 2 hours of sleep or something like that. You didn't even remember it. It's like I distinctly remember going to that tent and then like lying down, and then instructors coming in like immediately, and I'm like, okay, hope you guys liked your nap. I'm like, I literally did not get a nap.
Just closed my eyes.
I literally just lied down on the cot, and you just came in like so. But you don't know. I mean, you're already woozy, but it doesn't matter because when you start getting through Hell Week, that's the time where you let go of you let go of being selfish, because before that Hell Week, all you concentrated was yourself. To believe it or not, you could care less about anybody around you. All you concentrate with yourself, your own self-loathing, your own pity. How can I make this evolution? I just want to be the gray man. I just want to hide. I just get through this day. And in Hell Week, you can't run from all those things. It's like you have to participate And when you start caring more about the guy next to you and your boat crew than you do yourself, then you start to get it. Because what you realize that they're going to fail. If you quit, then that's one less person on the log, that's one less person on the boat, that's one less person, part of that team trying to accomplish a mission. If you go away, then now they have a greater chance of failing and then getting hurt. And that's how it is in life in a SEAL platoon. When you go out, it's like you go away, then you just compromise this. So it's like you're either in or you're not in. And so when you start adapting that mental state, then Hell Week became fun. Dare I say, it became fun. Because now you're all together and you're all, because you look at the guy to the left of you, look at to the right of you, you're carrying a 400-pound log a mile through the sand. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, on Wednesday, and you've been doing this shit for 72 hours, with everything. And you're like, you just grin. You look at each other and you grin. You're like, yep, this is us.
And you don't want anybody to quit at that point.
No, and we don't want anybody, and you're not going to at that point. Most of the people that quit Hell Week will do it, and Hell Week is 4th week. When I went through Buds, it was 5th. They moved to the 4th because they took a week out of first phase. But when you started to get, it, that's when it became fun. I mean, everyone in that boat crew is just as miserable as you. You are not more miserable than anybody else. You're not more cold than anybody else. You're not more chafed than anybody else. You're all just, you look to the left of you, right of you, and you guys just, hell yeah.
So in the first few weeks, do you think people are looking to the left and to the right and thinking, like, these are my competitors? I need to outlast these guys?
Yep. All I got to do is watch these guys quit, and that's it. So every time people quit, it gave me more energy because, a lot of guys there kind of knew what they were getting into. You can tell because they all had, like, muscles and abs, and even their abs had abs. They had bodies harder than Chinese algebra. It was like, damn. And then they looked at me. I mean, I was fast, but I wasn't like ripped or anything. I kind of looked like Goose in Top Gun, to be honest with you.
That's good. They'll underestimate you.
I know. There's 2 O's in Goose, Iceman. And that's the way I looked, except without the creepy stash. It's kind of like, but I can swim and run fast, but just kind of dumpy looking. But when I saw these beasts like quit, just because they're lying in cold water, I'm like, wow.
Right.
I was like, okay. So that's what I kind of focused on. Then in Hell Week, when you start caring about your guys, then it's like, okay, we're going to make it through together. And then when you get done with Hell Week, it's like, okay, now we're actually going to start SEAL training. We got rid of all the weak-minded people. We got people that quit. We got rid of all the people that didn't have what it took to get to this point. And by that time, you have about 20 dudes left. We're like, oh, I guess we're starting the school now. Got rid of the other 180 guys.
You start with 200 and you end with 20.
Yeah, through Hell Week, yep. And it's true. I know it sounds kind of funny, but it's true. It's like, there you go. Now we have given you the tools to persevere. You have given the tools that you've learned how to go beyond the potential that you have and keep going. You're never going to quit, and it's team before self. We've given you the tools. Now you have the tools to show up at a SEAL team, but now we have to do all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Which we finally got to diving, thank God. And by that time, I was disenchanted with the whole thing anyway.
Scuba diving?
Yeah, they even made that suck. So, yeah, Buds will make everything suck.
So I'm going to skip forward here a little bit, but coming out from the other side, you came back to Buds and helped on the other side as a trainer. Is that right? Later on in your SEAL career?
Yeah, an instructor. Yeah, my last year and a half in the Navy from end of 2015 to 1960. Yeah.
So like 20, 22, 23 years later.
Yeah, last like year and 3/4 I was there as an instructor, which is kind of fun.
What was that like having been there 20 years before and coming back on the other side?
It was interesting. I enjoyed it. I wasn't a mean instructor by any means because you have all sorts of types of instructors. You have the inspiring ones, the one that yell all the time, the one that are just assholes. And I was kind of like a quiet one. But when I saw something wrong, like if someone is doing push-ups all crappy or doing something dumb, like not literally putting out, trying to get by on something, I would be the guy that would go up to him and say, hey, Do you think Chuck Norris would be proud of those push-ups? You know?
That was an attention getter, right?
Yeah, they're like, yeah, yeah. So kind of like that. I was kind of like a snarky little. I wasn't a smart ass, but I was like a funny, like smart ass guy. It's like, hey man, if you want to be a SEAL, you got to do some things, you know, or you can be you. You know, what do you want to do?
Right.
You know, so but you know, then I was tasked with photographing and videoing as well. So
when you were still in.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I enjoyed it. It was a different, like what I found very, very interesting about it was when I came back. It's like when I was there we're all different shapes and sizes, but for most people muscular, kind of knew what was going on. But the guys nowadays, they were in a pipeline. We're talking like they were like recruited to be SEALs, recruited to go to BUDS. They had this entire pipeline from boot camp. They're molded to go to BUDS and become SEALs. You know, after boot camp, it's called the preparatory course, which is like 8 weeks where they've running, swimming. I mean, it's like, damn, you know, and then you got done with that. Then you get to BUDS. It's like basic orientation of like, 2 weeks of all the evolutions you're going to be doing. 2-mile ocean swims, runs, log PT, boats, drown proofing, knot tying. I mean, it's like you knew exactly what the hell you were getting into, and they're training you for it. Mm-hmm. And then when they all showed, and they all had not only they were running and swimming, but they did like CrossFit exercises. They're planking. I mean, they're like doing powerlifting things. I mean, it was like they all showed up. All of them looked exactly alike. They had just every one of them was just like. It's like, are you looking at BUD students or the cast of Magic Mike? It's like, Jesus Christ. You know, that's what I noticed. I was like, damn. You know?
Were they mentally tougher or were they?
No. Yeah. That's the whole point. They quit just the same.
Yeah.
That first day, one day, 20 of them gone. Bam. And the first week, 70. And the first week, you went from 180 to freaking 72. I mean, it's just by the time we got to Hell Week was 60. By the time we got through Hell Week, one Hell Week class, they got down to 15 by Wednesday. They started with 187 dudes. They were 15 by Wednesday.
Wow. And BUDS hasn't changed since the time that you went in.
No, it's the same. And so that's what I did like is all the evolutions were the same. The test gates were the same. Standards were the same. You know, the guys coming in look differently, but in the end, it's a war between years. That's it, you know, and I tell you what, you can physically do all the evolutions in BUDS, especially in first phase. If you didn't get dropped all the time, if you didn't have to hit the surf, if you weren't cold and wet, you can probably do all the and they're hard, but you'll survive. But it's all that stuff in between that makes you uncomfortable, doing your uncomfortable state all day long and night long. You know, that's what makes it hard, and people can't handle that.
Wow.
So you became a SEAL in the mid-'90s?
Yeah.
And you had a 20-plus year career as a SEAL. Mm-hmm. And 9/11 happens, obviously, in 01. Mm-hmm. Where were you when 9/11 happened?
I was deployed with SEAL Team 2, like my third deployment at that time. I think it was my third deployment. It's funny. Not really funny. It's 9/11. So I was with, I still remember, it was late afternoon. We just got done training. It was going in... I think we were going to the weekend. Was it a Tuesday that happened?
It happened on Tuesday. Yeah.
Tuesday. We were. I forget what we just came back with from Norway or something. I think we just came back from Norway working with Norwegian guys, and we had a couple days off. And I just remember being in the gym, and then one of my buddies who were with me said, "Hey, a plane hit the Twin Tower," and I'm like, "What?" You know, you're
doesn't make any sense. Yeah,
it makes no sense. So we finished our workout. I went back, and I'm with Rob O'Neill. So this is like foreshadowing and irony. So I'm with Rob O'Neill. Now Rob O'Neill ended up killing Bin Laden, which is hilarious. That's actually as funny. But Rob and I are roommates. I mean, Rob and I graduated BUDS together. We did about 3. This is our third platoon together. We spent the first 10 years of our SEAL career together. And here we are in our room. So, you know, your deployment room, you got your bed here, a wall for a dresser, and all your kit here. And, you know, and we have this little tiny television, and we're in Germany, and we're watching it, and this footage kept on coming through. It's like watching the planes go into it. We're like, oh, wow. And and then finally, then of course the base went in like high alert. So we got kitted up, dressed out. It's like, what are we doing? We don't know. Just be kitted up and ready. Like,
bad stuff just happened. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know. Just be ready to go. And we're like, all right. So we all kitted up. They're like, we have to create a warning order for what?
Right.
We're okay. Something just happened. We got our guns out. We're jocked up. We're ready to go. What are we doing? Nobody knows. But that was interesting. And watching the buildup of what we're going to do with the forces and how it was going to happen. But we ended up deploying back to the States before anything came to fruition on that. Because we were at the end of our deployment, we deployed out end of April, so we were done.
Yeah.
So and there was talk about us extending out another 3 months with the new platoon coming and going over there as a task force, all sorts of things. But as 9/11 happened and we started to deploy to Afghanistan, there's a lot more things that have to be in place, and instead of just sending a couple dudes over.
Right.
So we ended up redeploying, and then the next deployment we went back to Afghanistan. Right.
Crazy times.
And how many? I think I've heard the number 150 missions that you've been on, combat missions.
Yeah, all sorts of them, man. It's
and all over the world.
all over the world, man.
Can you share some stories, some memorable things that stick with you?
It's just hard to explain a lot of it, without going into huge detail. But I remember one which was actually just you can't script it. It was like something out of Goosebumps novel, man.
Yeah.
It was really crazy. So we're in Iraq, and then we ended up, hey, something's going down in Liberia. We're like, is that even a country? We're like, yeah. So we end up jumping on, loading up on some birds, going out. This is the USS Kearsarge. We ended out there. They're working with the UN, and they had a awesome reputation of being just all about everything and being cool.
I knew what you meant. Yeah.
Yeah, we're with
that.
those freaking guys. So you saw the big UN ship, and then we got our forces, and the Marines came in, which was great. So now, memory during survey, I think it was a LARD or something. I forget. It was just big tribal war, kind of like same thing in Mogadishu, and Rwanda, and the same thing. You go to those territories, they're all tribal, and something that here in America we just will not. Our minds will not let us accept what that is, and we always think we can fix it. We never will. So one tribe kills a bunch of others, revolutionaries. They start piling bodies in front of the U.S. Embassy, and then they start dumping all the bodies in the water and all this other shit. It's like, look what we're doing, and yelling and screaming. We have to help these people. And so our job was to go in and clear the beach. And so, like, okay.
What year was this?
2003.
And I think we felt obligated because we essentially created Liberia, this country.
We created a lot of problems. Let's create something and walk away and see what happens.
Yeah.
Did it work? So we had to go in and clear these beaches, and we're like, okay, we haven't done this in a while. I mean, actually, I was probably the only guy in the platoon that actually did beach clearing, because we were the first platoon in the Kosovo, and our first job was combat hydros. And they haven't done combat hydros since, I think, World War II. Mm-hmm. So we're the first ones doing that. So we kind of like, all right, what are we going to do? So anyway, and so we're going to these briefs. It's like, oh, by the way, every shark that can kill you is manifested in these waters. And so they're like, this is a great white breeding ground, and you want us to swim in. And leadership thought that was, yeah, you're SEALs. I'm like, yeah, but we're not stupid SEALs.
But you're also going to Liberia. What you were going to be up against on the beach line was not going to be that fierce.
Yeah. So we thought at first, So anyway, so all the mission briefing going down, and then like the back of the LPD opens up, it sinks, the ballast. So basically a ship, the bottom will open up, water will come in. You're actively sinking the ship, right? Ballast happens, and that's where we launch our boats. And then 3 hammerhead sharks just like started swimming in.
No way.
Yeah, and then like I'm sitting there like our platoon's sitting there. We got like 2 boats, and we're looking at each other's like, and then Rob looks at me, and I look at him. It's like, dude, not only if we're gonna get shot, we're gonna bleed out, and then we're gonna eaten. Yeah, and he's like, and he goes, yeah, most horrible death we can think of. Yeah, hey, if we do that, just set me on fire too. So let's get all 3, like a drowning, shot, and eaten, and on fire. It's like, okay, let's do that. So we start. That's how you have to think. You have to bring humor into what you're doing. I mean, because our job is so. It's not like anything else on earth, so you have to have comedy to ground you. You really do, and so we're giggling, and we're like, okay, well, bring the matches, and so no, we're gonna cut the fuel line on the 50s on the Zodiac, and we'll just spray it on you, and so we're giggling as we're going out, but we have to get in the ocean and swim, so we go out, and then we start going toward the beach, and there's like. It's like thousands of natives there, like thousands. And
really?
Like, they got guns like screaming in the air, and we're like, wow, should we keep going?
They knew you were coming?
Yeah, they knew we were coming.
Was this in the daylight?
Yeah, absolute daylight, which is weird. And lo and behold, we're like, okay, we're not going to eat my sharks. We go right on. Actually, I have a picture of it on USA Today, as a matter of fact. But so we made a bet if they're good guys or bad guys, and it's like, well, we'll know if they're bad guys, they start shooting at us. And so we went in, and they were actually on our side, for at least we think they were. And we're like, thank God. But that was probably one of the most weirdest things that we've ever done. I mean, we had sharks, we had freaking.
You couldn't make it up. You could not make that up.
We're diving for obstacles. We're getting there with the Marines to come in, and it's like, this Navy SEALs here to get you out.
And most of the American public had no clue you guys were doing that.
And you do that stuff all over the place. There's always little missions like that happen, man. But just like, and that's why you come back and we're all like weird. Why do you think?
Do you miss it?
No, I do not.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't miss it in a negative way or like disgruntled way by any means. I had a nice, great career in the Navy with the SEAL teams. Learned a lot, but now that I moved on, I don't really reflect back. I reflect back quite a bit, but I don't wish I was back there. I don't say, "Oh, I wish I was doing that again," because it was,
it's hard.
It was an incredibly hard job. You get strained, and you move on. Your body's broken, your mind's broken. You did it for a long time, but they had some great people. I'm not a big person, and I wish I was back there doing that again. That's not who I am as a person. It's that volume of all those chapters of my life is over. And so I'm going to move on. I'm not going to go back and, I wish I was back in SEAL teams. It's like, no, man, you're freaking 50 years old. Get over yourself. Move on. Go to the golf course. But what I do treasure is the lessons learned that I can pass on. And that's what I love about public speaking and talking in the book and things like I love to do, is we had gained so much knowledge about, leadership, teamwork, communication, intestinal fortitude, perseverance, resilience, and how we be able to adapt and overcome and work with people and get the job done in ways that we can pass it on to people, especially in business and whatever they're doing in life. And it's like, hey, these are great lessons learned. And so that's what I really enjoy doing, is passing it on. Because what I like to tell people is, the SEAL teams didn't define who I am by any means. Like who I am is like, I'm American, I'm a war fighter, I'm a father, I'm a husband. Those are things that I am, and I'm a comic book geek. I love old movies. I'm kind of a nerd. If I didn't become the SEALs, then I'd probably open up a comic book store. I'd probably like Kevin Smith. That's probably who my character was going to be. But what I did is I helped define the SEAL legacy, but for all the years of success that we had, and I treasure that, and that's what I like passing on to other people as I move forward. And hey, these are their lessons learned. This is how we did this. Here, let me see if you can do it. And if someone, when I'm giving public speeches and and then I'm talking in front of 1,000 people. It's like, hey, if 2 or 3 people walk away and it makes a difference, then that's what matters.
That's really cool, man. I am so glad you joined us tonight. And very
my pleasure.
Very
man.
proud of your service for sure.
Thank you.
So you're doing public speaking. You do motivational speaking. You're talking in front of hundreds of people, maybe a couple thousand folks. What's the largest crowd, by the way?
2,000.
Yeah.
I was actually, you know what? But here's what's really weird. I was in Vegas for that. It was like a big CDW partner conference. And it was really, it's like CDW is really, really big. And I've actually got really dear friends at CDW that got me in as the keynote for, so they bring people all over the country there. I mean, we're talking, if it's anything big for tech, they're there, from the CEOs at Hierarchy, from Apple to Hewlett-Packard, IBM, Samsung, you name it. They're all there, you know. And it's funny, it's kind of like the Oscars Forum, because we're at Mandalay Bay, and every huge restaurant there is where one company owns that restaurant, kind of like their VIP party, kind of like the Oscars. And you go in there, they got little gifts, and it's like it's 5 days. It's like literally 5 days of like just incredible. And I got to be the keynote, and it's funny as you're pulling in, it's like, here it is, you know, Mandalay Bay, and a big screen out front. It's like CW Partner Conference, D. McBurnett and Lady Antebellum, you know. So they were the entertainment on the last night there. So I thought that was kind of cool.
That's very cool, yeah.
Yeah, and you walk in there, it's just this huge, huge stage. It looked like something out of the Death Star. But I had great friends, and I went up on stage. It's like it was 2,000 plus, and I didn't care. I was like, hey, man, here we go. This is going to be fun.
You enjoy doing it.
I love it. It's. I don't know, for some reason, people are like, I don't like to public speak. It's like when I get on stage, for some reason, something clicks. You know, it just goes. And I enjoy it. It was like I have a good time. And like,
you get to do what you enjoy.
Yeah. And you know, and people enjoy it, and get some takeaway messaging, which is fantastic. And then you go off after that.
Yeah, very cool. You got to be on Fox and Friends.
I did.
Tell us about that.
That was fun. You know, it's like I've made friends with a lot of good people on my road to where I've gone after the military, and the producer of Fox Friends is one of them. And Gavin Haddon's a great guy. You know, we talked, and after my first release of Uncommon Grit, he said, hey, come on, we'll talk about it for 4th of July. You know, it's like, okay, so you go up to New York, and you stay across from the hotel, and you walk over, and it's kind of cool. You sit in this little green room, and okay, you're going to talk about this. You're going to be a Pete. You talk about 8 minutes. We're doing this, and so it's funny. So I'll get in there, and I'm sitting there, and I don't know if you saw the video of that. It's actually pretty funny. You seen the video?
No, I gotta check it out.
It's actually pretty funny. And we'll sit there and we'll start talking about what we're going to talk about. You know, he's got his little card, and like we're going to talk this. But in the back of my mind, 2 things are happening. And number one, you know, freaking Colin Kaepernick being a little bitch crying about the little Betsy Ross flag in the freaking shoe, crying about that. Grew up in the suburbs with white parents, and the other thing was Eddie Gallagher. Eddie Gallagher was going on. He was finally hitting the news with the injustice that happened to him. And in the back of my mind is like, I'll bet you he's going to ask me about this. One of those two, he's going to do it. In the back of my mind, you know, like, and so we talked about how the flow and what he was going to talk to me about. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sounds good, brother. You know, and then as soon as we went live, he didn't say anything about anything we were going to freaking talk about.
No way.
Nothing. The first thing he talks about Uncommon Grid, this fantastic thing about the thing. He goes, so what do you think about Colin Kaepernick and the Betsy Ross flag? And I was like, if our flag offends you, then you're a jackass. I said it right there. But that was a lot of fun, you know, and that, of course, being on Fox helped us out a great deal, where we, you know, sold out our first printing of Uncommon Grit. Like, you know, we went to our new publisher on Grand Central. She's like, how many copies of this have you sold? I was like, well, we sold over 3,000 on Instagram. And so she's like, oh. I was like, what? It's like, yeah, I don't know. You know, you can do that nowadays. We possess the technology.
How do you have so many followers on Instagram?
I don't know. I literally don't know.
Bizarre. You picked up 1,000 since we last spoke a week and a half ago.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
You know what? I tell you why I don't know. I just know the algorithms. I don't actively go out and search for followers. I don't. It just happens. And so my formula is the same every time. It's like if you go to my page, I'm going to do some old photos of me. I remember all the fallen seals. I remember all the holidays. I'll go live every once in a while, but every day I post a Buds photo, and I talk a little bit of motivation about it, and that's it.
Yeah.
What I will not do is I don't jump on the political train at all because everybody in politics hates one another, and there's no point. I don't get on any current issues that people bitch about. If some injustice happens, or pray for whoever or whatever, pray for France, or people like to change their Instagram photo to a flag or something like the last one was like, oh, this happened. Everyone to do a black chip on their thing. It's like I don't follow any of the social trends of things that are happening, whether I agree with them or disagree with them.
Right.
I stay exactly freaking neutral. And I do that on purpose. It's not to hide or anything else. It's like there's no point. Because if you're one side, the other side's going to hate you. If you're this side, they're going to hate you. I mean, that we live in a world of absolute fucking hate right now. I've never seen our country more divided now than ever, and it's sad to me. And so for me, I'm not going to play into it.
Yeah,
it's like I'm going to do the same thing I have been doing. So when you come to my page on Instagram, it's the same thing, and people like that. I think people, because so many of my friends and on Instagram that I do, and they're all getting like really, really political, and they're like their feeds are turning into like hate feeds, and it's like
it's crazy.
So many just and to me, I won't do it. If I get a negative comment on my stuff, I delete it and I block them. I don't care.
Yeah.
You just go away. And so coming to my page is more like a comfort. It's like here's someone that's staying exactly the same.
Right.
And that's what we like, and that's what I think.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And also like talking about values like that really motivate people to do positive things in the world instead of something that people just get angry and stirred up about.
McB, if you had a podcast, Daniel would listen to it all the time.
All the time.
Oh, you know it, dude. Oh yeah, yeah. I love all that.
You want to make a difference, man. You really do. It's like stop. I'm telling you, so many people out there. Hey, stop being a little bitch and make a difference. It's like, seriously, do something that makes a difference.
Yeah. Have a positive impact.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't know what it is. It's like, I'll be honest with you. I tell you, I get hit up all the time on Instagram with people like, well, what should I do? I want to go to college first, and then I want to become a SEAL. They're doing all these. I'm like, okay. That's like, why do you want to go to college? Well, I just want to go to college first. And it's like, okay, what are you studying? Oh, like accounting or communication. It's like, really? That's what you're going to do? I'm like, okay, why don't you do this? And I'll go live and I'll talk about this. I'm like, hey, this is what you need to do. Before you decide to get $80,000 to $120,000 in debt, why don't you go to college that gives you an actual skill set? Why don't you learn something? Learn something that we as humans need. Like, why don't you spend 2 years and learn how to fix a car engine?
Yeah.
Why don't you learn how to frame a house? Why don't you figure out how to run plumbing in a house? Why don't you figure out how to do septic? Why don't you figure out how to do why don't you figure out to hang electrical wires? Why don't you learn lighting? Why don't you learn things that we need?
Yeah.
Like actual skill sets, like skills that will get you, be pest control, do something that we need, and because that's going to get you a job. Getting an accounting degree will not get you a job, especially that's going to warrant $80,000 to $120,000 in debt.
Right.
And I think that's the issue that we have with our youth nowadays, and that's why you have so many people that are hating one another, just like embracing, the idea of socialism because they don't know any better. Because the first thing that our country does, the narrative, is you need a degree. They don't really talk about why you need a degree. You just need a degree. The degree is to get you in debt. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And so if you're in debt, you can be controlled. And then when you're controlled, it's easier to shift the narrative and have you to agree and disagree a lot easier because you're always going to be under the gun in debt all the time with a degree that you can't do anything with. And I think that's a sad state, to be honest with you. So I tell people, dude, if you want to take $80,000, $120,000, good, take it and buy a Starbucks.
Right.
Get a corner franchise, buy it.
Be an entrepreneur.
and then do something with it, you know? It's like buy a McDonald's or make a down payment on a McDonald's or something. You know, I know it sounds bad, but at least with that, you'll get your return in like the first quarter. You know?
Yeah, I think the world's turning that way. I really do.
Yeah.
It's quiet. It's not on social media a ton, but I think the world's seeing value in go get life experience, do things that are necessary to make mankind better.
Yeah.
Instead of just dropping $100,000.
100% agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100% agree. You know, and that's what I'll talk about. It's not anything negative toward a college, but if that college is going to give you well, let me see, what do I got? Oh, that's right, a liberal arts degree, which allowed me to do two things. Jack and shit. So,
those are the two things I did right after I graduated.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, okay, what do you do with that? I don't know. Well, you said I needed a degree, and here it is. So I found my degree the other day. I was looking through my stuff. It's like, oh, there it is. Oh, how can you have that framed? Why? All it is a receipt. That's all it is. So it's not being negative toward people that want to go to college, but if you look at that college degree, look at the end state. What do you think you're going to be doing? How much money you're going to be making? But not only that, what are the high end make and what are the low end make? And what are the averages going to make? And then you, as a new person going in, how much are you going to make? Because you're paying back $100,000.
All right.
Not to mention the fact that you're going to be paying rent, and taxes and everything else on it. Oh, and plus you got to pay for like all your bills, your car, you know, and everything else. And so when you get to the end, it's like it's a whole it's almost impossible to get out of.
Yep, and look up, you know, community colleges, look up what plumbers make, look up what electricians make. Like, you can make a respectable career out of...
More than respectable, yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Out of doing anything.
And you can enjoy yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Good Lord. Anyway, that's... So circle back to that's why I think my Instagram has been successful.
Happier question. What brought you to Virginia?
Oh, yeah. So I did the first 10 years of my career in Virginia. So I loved the climate. I loved the four seasons. I loved just how it is. I love the landscape. I just do. And so my wife had a sister, and they're very close, that lived in Virginia. And when I started getting close to getting out of the Navy, was like, where do you want to live? And she goes, I want to live close to my sister. I'm like, fine, let's go to Virginia. And so this is how we ended up.
She's in the area?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so for us, it was fantastic. I'm like, yeah, I love Virginia. So...
And they have a pretty strong Navy presence out in Norfolk or Virginia Beach, right?
Extremely strong.
Yeah, yeah, extremely strong.
It's the largest naval base, certainly on the east coast of the U.S.
Yeah,
right, and it's probably the largest naval base maybe in the world.
Yeah, it's big. I mean, I think the one that may be a little bit bigger would be up at Annapolis because you got Groton's pretty big too.
Yeah.
But 32nd Street, 32nd Street in San Diego. It's pretty big too.
Massive, yeah.
Yeah, huge. So, yeah.
Well, I want to hear a little bit about your photography career, like how you got interested in it, and then also, you know, when you were taking the pictures that became Uncommon Grit, how did you go about taking them, and, you know, what was your process?
Photography career started when I got a break from deploying. So this was I did like basically in the Navy. It's 5 and 2. It's 5 years deploying, 2 years at a shore duty, where you're going in like advanced training. You know, you just basically being home with the family.
5 and 2 is hard.
Yeah, I did like 10 and 2. 10 and 3. So, but anyway, my shore duty or my time at home was spent in Yuma, Arizona. Where as a joint command, we're under the JFK Center and teaching military freefall. And so that's what I did. And I what I loved about military freefall is the fact that I was naturally good at it, which is weird. You know, it's like being a SEAL, I was good at being a SEAL, but, I wasn't naturally good at everything that we did. But when it came to not that everything was hard, but I didn't struggle. But it was definitely learning and like relearning and like, really getting in there to learn everything we did. And it definitely wasn't an easy road. But when it came to military freefall, it came naturally. I didn't even think about it. It was like, boom, it was there. Even when I did my first jumps as a student, my instructor was like, you've jumped before. I'm like, no, I haven't. And he's like, yeah, you've jumped before. I'm like, no, I have not. Anyway, you can see where we're going. But so
Yeah.
But anyway, as I get there, I went to advanced military free fall, did all the test gates on first try. There are only 2 instructors in the history of military free falls that have done that. So I was like a natural at it. And so that got me fast-tracked. So I ended up being a video guy. So the video guys are usually the best flyers historically there because you need to know everything. And basically you have to know what that student's going to do on the jump. You have to know the jump profile. You have to know where the instructor is going to be, and then also when that student starts screwing up, you know what the instructor is going to do, and you have to counter what the instructor is going to do, knowing what the student's going to do, all instinctively in the air, because you have to film it, because the only way you're going to learn is through film. So you get home, when you get down on the ground, you show your student what they did wrong. That's how they can fix it. You can't tell them what they did wrong. You got to see it, and so that's why video is an imperative learning tool. So I ended up in the video debt, and I just enjoyed it, but I really enjoyed being in the air. I enjoyed when that ramp opened, and I enjoyed the morning light. And it's like, wow, somebody should take a picture of this. And then, well, maybe it should be me. I guess I'll figure it out. I used to ask, and no one takes pictures of that. I'm like, oh. So I decided to figure it out. And this is like 2007. And so I didn't have a lot of money at that time because I was like unhappily married with kids, so I was broke. But I wanted to learn it, so I started learning digital photography. I just go to Google, learn it. I'd go to Barnes & Noble with my kids, and I would take my little green dive logbook and take notes from it. I'd read digital photography books, and then I'd put them back because I couldn't afford them, and then just started learning. And I did like 6 months. I went on eBay, and I learned, I bought like Photoshop for beginners, for like $5 a disc that you can plug in and like put in your computer and like learn. And so that's how I did it. And then I finally sold a bunch of comic books I didn't want to sell, but I did. Got a camera, 1 lens, 1 CF card, and then put it on my helmet, attached everything, and then started photography. And that's kind of where it started. So.
And you love it, right?
Yeah, I loved it. I literally loved it. I mean, it was really fun. I loved the whole process of it. I was doing something I loved, which is military free fall. I loved being around the cadre, the students. I loved taking pictures and, printing them out and giving them to them. That was kind of like what I did. And it was a lot of fun and it was hard learning it, but, I got it after a while. And so what makes my photography interesting is the fact that I learned backwards. And so I learned the digital darkroom first because I didn't have any money for a camera. Because most people buy a camera, they'll buy it and they'll like snap a photo and they'll put it on an automatic setting. They'll look at the back of the LCD screen. It's like, ooh, look, I'm a great photographer. Look at me. It's like, no, dipshit. So that's what most people do. And that's what Canon and Nikon rely on. They rely on that. That's why the LCD screens are so huge. But I learned backwards. I learned like all the minutia of digital photography, all the numbers. Like it's a numbers thing. It's channels. It's like histograms. It's like piles, like stacks of tiles. It's 0 to 255. It's like, it's color management. It's like I learned all that. And when you learn all that, you've broken the code, man. You've broken the Da Vinci Code because now taking the picture is nothing. It's like I don't care about I care about the picture. What I got. I got that composition. I got to dump it in here and make it a powerful image now. Because digital photography is all numbers. Everything you're seeing is a number. It's not film. It's a number. And so that's what makes digital photography so powerful. Is like people just don't understand. It's like it's not film. It's not like the slides that you have. It's everything you see there. It's 255 shades of gray. With 3 channels, red, blue, and green, and you put them all together, you create an image, and it's all numbers. And so once you start understanding those numbers, that's how your photography that you do becomes more powerful.
Yeah, and I've flipped through Uncommon Grid, and every one of those images has power in it. I think my favorite ones are the ones where you catch someone looking at the camera as you take the picture. And you can kind of see, I don't know, it's usually some kind of suffering, some version of suffering in their eye.
They don't look happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're the opposite, unhappy.
Yeah. So how do you like go about taking pictures specifically with buds, and like, how would you? Because having been through it yourself, having known the experience, what was your process like?
It was, I'm instructor first, so I had the bag in the truck, and it would just I would see the evolution and see how it's panning out. But what I was looking for was kind of like guys that are going through that kind of that I knew what they were feeling, and it was like, okay, this is going to be a good shot. I can see him. I can see the misery, and so. And that's the beauty about going through buds. It's like I have that personal experience, and I know when guys quit. I know when they're looking to quit. I know when they're suffering. I know they're hating on the guys. I know they're in the self-loathing. I know they're shivering. You just find these moments of misery, and I can see them coming. I'm like, okay, this is it. And so I'll watch around, and then I'll just grab my camera and like go behind a truck. Because I never really put the camera in their face, even though a lot of the images looks like I'm literally in their face, but I'm really far away. And so I'm like, okay, I remember this one, bam, bam, bam. Go around, or a lot of times they're in the surf. When they're in the surf, it's like there's only a few instructors left, so I'll go and take some shots. But you have to find those moments where they're really digging deep within themselves to see if they're going to move on, and I can identify those. I've been there, so it was easy to see.
That's awesome, man.
We hope you sell 1 million copies, man.
We sure do.
So do I. I mean, kind of neat. Well, let's get rid of 2020 first.
We're almost done with 2020.
Yeah. All our listeners should go and grab one. It's called Uncommon Grit. Where can they find it? Amazon?
Amazon's a big one. But they have it at Barnes & Noble. But if they go to uncommongritbook.com, that's uncommongritbook.com, they can order it from anywhere on there. And Amazon's a big one. Or they can go to my website, dmcburnett.com. And you can get a signed, personalized copy.
Yeah, and just a warning, it's not the kind of book that you would put on a shelf and like tuck away in the corner. It's the kind of book that would need like center stage on a coffee table.
It needs lighting. It needs central.
Yeah, it's the amount of people that have it is like really astonishing, man. It's like really cool. From John Daly, to Jim McMahon, Super Bowl. From let's see who else has it. Donald Trump has one. Mark Churchill has one. Rob O'Neill has one. Jason Redman has one. Pete Koch has one. Benicio del Toro has one.
Nice.
Benson Silva has one. It's like all the people that have one. It's like really, really cool. John Rich from Big and Rich has one.
Paul Gilman and Daniel Lance.
Paul Gilman has one. There you go. Boom. So it's cool. And the book's going to be around for a long time. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
That's right. And so it'll keep building, and I hope it does. Sell that much. I really do. It's like a slow roll. It's like your set's coming in if you're surfing, and you can see the set out there. It's coming, and the big thing about the book is that, yes, we'd like it to sell a lot, that'd be great. But for the most part, the book's meant to motivate. It's like, this is what doing hard things looks like, and these are the men that want to do the hard things for our country, and this is what it takes. And so you look at that and you be motivated. That'll be, that's the purpose of it.
Yeah, and I think that's why you've drawn so many followers to your Instagram too. I think that's exactly
thank
why.
you.
No doubt. So, McB, you don't know this. My job is to get the guests typically. I mean, you've landed, I think, a handful. But I typically get the guests. By handful, I think I mean 4. But you've named some people that I would love to have on a podcast. Rob O'Neill, I mean, it's ridiculous, right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And you were his roommate. You were in platoons together for the first decade of your time in the teams. Love to talk to Rob. It's weird for me even saying this. I'd love to talk to Rob O'Neill.
I would too. Rob's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Kid Rock sounds amazing.
Yeah, Bob is a good dude. That thing about him is like, he just, after you get done with all the pomp and circumstance and everything he is, because he's an image.
Right.
But when you break him down and you're in he lives in a double wide. I'm not kidding you.
He's just a good dude.
He's a good dude. His house literally as big as his basement.
Wow.
It's a double wide. And he
could easily live in something much bigger.
Yeah. Now his studio's a different story. That thing's a mansion, but that he lives where he lays his head is a nice double wide, and he's just a good dude. He's caring. He loves veterans. He loves America. He does what he can for everything, America and, disabled veterans. And he's generally just a great dude to be around, And so when I go out to Nashville and hang out with him, it's really a pleasure.
Yeah, we need more people like you, and I'll call him Bob.
That's hilarious.
Well, McB, awesome having you on tonight.
Thanks for having me, man.
It was a good time, and I really, really appreciate everything you've done for this country, man.
My pleasure. Remember, like I said, liberal arts degree, hard at work.
Yeah, I know you've heard it a million times, and it sounds like a broken record, but thank you
I
for your
appreciate it,
service.
man. I really do. It's an honor. I tell you, it's a true honor. Speaking has always been an honor. When you have people that are interested in you and on here, you have to say it's an honor. It really is.
And we absolutely are.
Thank you.
All right.
Very cool.
Cool. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to subscribe through whichever app you're using. To share your thoughts, head over to our website at podso1.io, and there you can comment on episodes or send us feedback directly. Thanks for listening.